Hello and welcome. Today we've got Michael Jaco, former CIA and Navy SEAL. And today we are going to be discussing disinformation and media manipulation and CERN. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Michael can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Michael, thank you for joining me, sir. How are you and what have you been up to? And happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, it's a great 4th of July. And coming from someone from the UK, I appreciate that very much. So that's and you have a nice flag back there. I love the UK. I don't see them as ever being the enemy. So we're not celebrating, defeat of an enemy, but the celebration of freedom, which everyone should celebrate all over the world. And we know that freedom has been, suppressed a lot of times throughout history, going all the way back to Atlantis, all the way up to our current time frame. I think we're basically overcoming the Atlantean control systems that were started long ago, and we're about ready to break free from them. So absolutely. I think that, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, please.
So we were going to talk about disinformation. You want to go into that?
Yeah, I really want to go into the disinformation because I just done an interview with a gentleman, Randy Alexander, who we were talking about Dr. Zelenko passing away. And the New York Times has reported that his work and his, supplements haven't been founded correctly or, hasn't got any solid backing. Which is trying to, discredit the doctor, which we know this is a very common issue with, in the last 2 years because of the Jabadoo narrative, if you like. So there's a lot of disinformation and media manipulation. Absolutely. Why don't you take us into what's happening now? And people like, you and I, our platforms where we interview people and there's so much information that they're putting out there that's going against what we're saying. Why don't you take us into that?
That's beautiful. Thanks, Nicholas. And I love your show. I watch your show pretty much every day. You have great guests on, and I'm having expansive things that are happening to me. I think everyone's being expanded, intellectually. We're getting critical thinking for everybody. People are watching our shows and being expanded in a lot of different ways. We have guests that are all over the place. Now, what I've learned, all the way back from my days in the SEAL teams, when I was in SEAL Team 6, we did what's called a Panama invasion, where we took down General Noriega, who was basically running his country. And there were some problems. So we came in. I was there for a couple months before we actually did the takedown and looked for him. So during that time frame, while we're searching for him, and we finally found him, he was held up in, I think, a Catholic church somewhere, and we surrounded that. We told him, time to give up. You're surrounded. Come out with your hands up. And so he stayed in there. So we're surrounding it, and our communication people were passing information. Well, the press shows up and they start to kind of listen in on the communications that were going on. They could hear them. So there was, they started this broadcast of music really, really loud. So it kind of got leaked that there was, the reason why that was because we were psychologically screwing with Noriega to make him leave. So it was like 24 hours, high-pitched music, basically rock and roll, stuff that everyone likes to listen to. But the press took that and said, oh, look, they're trying to do psychological warfare on him and stuff like that. No, it was a cover so they could not hear our communications. So this is something that has gone on for a very long time. We go all the way back to Alexander the Great. He basically said, oh, we're going to invade. We're going into Iran, Persia. We're going to invade. We're going to be gone for a long time. So send letters back to your wives, your girlfriend, your family, whatever. Let them know we're going to be gone for a while. So then the letters go out, and he intercepts the letters, and he finds out that he's got some spies within his group. So this intel gathering has gone on for a long time now. It goes back and forth. What's happening to us, the people of the world right now, is we're being intel gathered through social media, through our platforms like this. They're watching us. They're seeing how people respond to our programs. And if our programs get too much of a response in a way they don't want it, then they, as you know, and I know, they shut down our programs. And that happens to us on social media as well. If we're relaying information in a direction that they want to control and control the narrative, kind of like, what happened, like I'm talking about, when we, had Noriega surrounded, and the press, who releases everything, sometimes not what we want, they started listening in. So it's kind of the same thing. So we, blasted a certain narrative out there. They took the bait, ran with it, said, "Oh, it's a disinformation campaign," because they're trying to, hit Noriega with all this music. So that's what they're doing to us. It's a disinformation campaign. They're at war with the populace of the world. So once we understand that, we start to see that, and we start to relay that information to other people, they can see through the game very quickly. And like I do when I'm trying to communicate with people, I use other platforms that are more secure. So you have to be aware of that right now. So and pretty much I don't think anything is really secure at this point. I used to work for the CIA. The CIA told me very early in the game that Facebook was basically a captured operation, that they were using that to gather information. So I thought, oh, they're using it to gather information for terrorists and stuff like that, because I was part of, hunting terrorists, and we did very well using some of these techniques. So I'm like, oh, they're using it to hunt bad people all over the world. No, they're using it, as we know now, to gather information on us, to control us, to see what we're listening to. If they put out a narrative like there's, maybe you need to go get something for your health that goes into your body. If they put something out, they want to see what the narrative is like. So if you have good doctors like Dr. Zelenko comes out and talks about some of this stuff, they don't like that, because it's basically moving the narrative away from what they want it to be. So think of them more as the enemy. We know that we're, in some respects, a captured operation, and they're controlling us through the media sources and so forth. And then in another aspect, like I've been talking about and other guests have been talking about, behind the scenes, a lot of these people are being taken down. So again, it's a military operation that they're trying to control us, but on the war is on against them as well. It's not just them against us. It's also another war that's going on that's very secretive, that's even more secretive than what they're doing to us. All right. So I've talked about how a lot of the top people throughout the world, here in America and UK, I believe, and France and Canada, Australia, a lot of these people that are at the top are basically either gone or replaced, or someone else is posing as them. Now we're looking at second tier, which are like the mayors, the governors, and their staff and so forth. A lot of them have been taken down as well. And now we're starting to get down to the third tier. The third tier basically is the people that have pushed this narrative in the schools, in the healthcare industry, in the press and so forth. A lot of them are being taken down too. So we're seeing three tiers of people that are being removed from the scene very quietly, very efficiently, military operations that are going on. So even though it seemed like sometimes that we're not, making much headway, and people get frustrated, we do see, if you look at the bigger picture of it, we are seeing that these guys are being removed. Now there's several ways that we're seeing this, but they're still operational on us. If you look at Abraham Lincoln, if we look at, Independence Day, and we come up to like Civil War timeframes in America, you look at Abraham Lincoln, he was the 17th president. He was assassinated. All right. So they, and we'll say I will say they, but we know it's a group like you were describing before the show. that controls big pharma, politics, big corporations, the media, and so forth. So there is a group that is out there like that, and I'll call them the days. And a lot of people's like, who are the days? I mean, at this point, you shouldn't be asking that question. You should know, but we'll just say, look at who is trying to control consciousness. Look at who's trying to force certain narratives that are not popular, that aren't really, as we know, good for us. That's the days. All right. So the days also have this thing that's called CERN. CERN has 17 miles of like a loop, 17 again. So that 17 keeps coming up, and you'll see 17 a lot of different things. Just recently, there was this 17th letter alphabet group that released after 1,700 days when they first released something. I've heard someone say 17 months since their last post. I haven't checked that, but you see that 17 happening again, over and over and over again. So when I look at that 17th letter alphabet, I've never really looked at it that hard. I've never paid that much of attention to it because I didn't really feel that it was, really releasing that much. But a lot of people have. A lot of people have put a lot of trust in that. Just like I just talked about in the very beginning, the first thing I talked about, you might go back into even look at you can probably even pull this up and look at when Noriega was surrounded, and you're going to see how there was psychological operations with the music. No one knows but me and your audience now what that really was. All right. So that's important for people to understand, that these psychological operations and these intel operations will hold a piece of truth in them. So that piece of truth is the way that they push in negative, agendas. So if you think that, everything out there that you're seeing from, these different organizations, I mean, just think about it. How would they release information of things that are going on to take down the system and put it out in the open for everybody? Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen, guys. So some of that stuff has a little level of truth in it, but don't pay attention to everything. We've heard that, Big T, Donald T was coming back. He'd be back soon, maybe soon, but maybe not. So you can't get hooked on certain things and get depressed because it doesn't happen a certain way, or certain intelligence or disinformation, as we're talking about, will come in and capture you and take you down a rabbit hole where you just get lost.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that there is, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 of these people that have been taken down, mm-hmm. from these 3 different tiers. Would you like to give us an example of maybe who, like one of tier 1, someone in tier 2, an example of someone from tier 3?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sure. Look at, I'll say Brandon. I think everybody knows who that is. You look at the ears on Brandon. You look at the head of Brandon, the head itself, the facial features of Brandon do not look the same. And the ear is almost like a fingerprint. So if you look at the ear is not the same. You see the mannerisms of Brandon compared to Brandon in the past. They don't match. So Brandon would be one of those that's gone. And there's many others. I think that a lot of the top guys, maybe even their top guy there in Britain, I think that he might be someone else. So there's a lot of in Canada and in France. So a lot of these people, I think, have been basically either they're captured operations where they're basically doing what the white hats want them to do, or they've been replaced by someone else or something else. All right. So moving down to tier 2, here in America, we see in New York, there was a governor, Governor Cuomo. I even predicted that Cuomo would be the first governor that would be taken down, and he was. So he's gone. We haven't seen him for a very long time. So there's a good example of a tier 2 that has been removed from the scene. Now, if we go over to California, I said California would have the second. Gavin Newsom would be number 2, I said. Now, Newsom was gone for almost 2 weeks straight, where he was just not around. That is just absurd for a governor of a state who should be on call at any time. Basically, go off on vacation or go take a break or that's basically what we heard. For 2 weeks, he's gone. So during that 2 weeks, maybe something happened to him, get questioned, and then somebody else got fed back into the system. So I could go on and on. There's another governor up in, I think it's Michigan, Governor Whitmer. I call her Whitmer. So she, I think, is also a captured operation or maybe even replaced. So those are levels, tier 2 levels. Tier 3 levels would be the people that are running hospitals. I think some of these hospitals, I can't give you specifics because that's I think that and I've been told, but I can't actually go in and view and question at my level some of this information that I've been given. But I see that some people that are running hospitals, that own hospitals, some of them have been, basically, here, you need to come with us, and they've disappeared as well. So that's happened even here in Sarasota where I live. There's one of those, and I think if I'm seeing it here in my little neck of the woods, I'm sure it's been happening as I've been hearing from in a lot of other places. So if we look at all the way down to like school boards and so forth, some of those are basically, I think, as we're starting to see from this pre-election, basically there's a runoff primaries, as we call them here, where people are chosen to go to the next level to be voted on. It looks like that's being revealed as false and fake. Just like if we go all the way back to 2020, seems to be problems there. But we're seeing a lot of this stuff being revealed. And I think you were talking about Missouri. When I pull up Missouri, looks like they're making sure that it says new Missouri photo ID law, changing voting before. So at some point, I think if it hasn't happened already, one of these states is going to say, yeah, we don't think this 2020 was right. We're basically, it's no more from our end, and then has to be voted on by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has been voting really, really, really good last few like last month. They've overturned a lot of stuff like Roe versus Wade and so forth. So I think that things are going to start to accelerate. More and more things are going to be revealed, and that's part of disinformation and controlling the narrative. Controlling the narrative, like I talked about in the beginning, you control the narrative, and disinformation goes out, but you allow that disinformation to go out, like, they're trying to psychologically attack Noriega. No, it wasn't that way. It was something else, but let them run with that narrative. So we're seeing a lot of narratives that are running, that are being allowed to run, because they take the attention away from actual operations that are going down and that are being successful.
Absolutely. Now, when President Trump was president, the media absolutely hated him because they are on the other side. They control, like we said, Big Pharma, all the governments around the world, which they hijacked in World War II. They own everything, the food industries, the education system. And Donald Trump was basically draining the swamp, as he referred it to himself. He wants to get rid of this so-called deep state, he says. And now, he's not, there's lots of actors and, going on, as we think, the white hats hopefully are in control now. But I saw a lady on the rally that, in Trump's rally, and she was saying that on the 8th of November, they're going to take back the United States. Now, does that mean that Trump could return, like what you said with the Supreme Court, if they were to overturn, other cases? And if so, how quickly would we see things happen with draining the swamp?
So something is going to happen. I have remote viewed November 8th, and I don't see an election. And I looked on either side, a week either side. I don't see an election. I've had other psychics on my show. Without knowing what I talked about, they just mentioned, I don't see the election going down. I've had also Juan O'Savin come on, and he says that there's a possibility. So Juan always talks military intel type as well. There's a possibility. So he's seeding the field with that information. There's a possibility that the election won't go down. So I've heard that from other sources as well. They've talked openly about it. So there's a lot of us that are seeing, whether it's through intuition or whether it's from just looking at all the things that are happening, moving to that point where it doesn't go down. And why would it go down? Why would it not go down? That means that something previous to that point has happened or will happen, where there's issues with the system. It's been exposed, which is happening right now. And then because of those issues, that exposure, the whole system breaks down, shuts down, is basically termed, no longer viable. And then another system comes in, maybe a quantum level voting system like crypto, blockchain type of voting. That would be ideal. A lot of people have talked about that. That was kind of like, I think, some of the reveal that happened in the last one. So we'll see something that's going to happen before then. There's too many of us that are seeing November 8th not happen. So it could be like you're talking about. I don't think it's like November 8th that he comes back. I think it's actually before then. Now, I've heard some people that seem to know some intel sources that I'm not aware of. So I'm just kind of skeptical on anyone that has an intel source that they leak. But they have said that he will be back, around this time. So I don't know. I don't feel that, but maybe I would like, maybe the way it works that way is that it becomes more obvious, because I don't think he was ever not in charge. And I think he still is in charge. We'll just leave it at that. I think people can read between the lines. So because of that, I think it becomes more revealed that is the case, and more revealed as time goes on, as people become more and more comfortable with that type of, okay, yeah. So now the whole system has to be revamped, because September 3rd, I believe it is, September 2nd, and then on the 3rd is basically done, is all the that happened on 2020 basically can be destroyed. So we'll see a massive destruction of material, but on the day of the 3rd, if something doesn't happen. What do we need that? Do we have enough information that there was a problem? I think at this point we definitely have enough information there was a problem. So whether that date comes and goes is not a concern for me. What I would like to see is basically someone say invalidate 2020 in some way, and at that point, then it's a domino effect, and we start moving in the right direction. There'll be some people that aren't in agreement with that, because they're making out quite good the way the system is right now. But there's always, people that fall in line with a corrupt system. We've seen it throughout history.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned CERN earlier, and if people are listening to this for the first time, how do you tell them what CERN is, first of all?
So CERN is supposedly they were going to use CERN to do Jacob's ladder, the God particle. And then once they had done that, once they had that ability to be like gods, they were going to take over the world and throw us into a total negative system. AI system, I think, is where they want to take us.
But let's really go back here. Let's really break this down. So what do you mean by gods? I'm trying to really make this simple for anyone that's listening that can understand what CERN is. So you're saying, first of all, it's a 17-mile, a loop that goes round. But what does it do? Is it to do with it? Does it use quantum properties? And if so, what does that mean? Does it open portals? And then we can go into the God thing that you were saying.
Yeah, the portal thing is basically, I believe, what they want to do. They want to open a portal. So basically the 17 miles is they take a particle, an atomic particle, and they put it in this loop. As it goes around this loop, it picks up speed, and then it slams into another particle, and it creates almost like an atomic blast, and opens a portal. So from that portal, they can let through negative entities. They can travel back and forth into these realms of interdimensional realms where negative entities can exist. They can tap into that. I think that already exists on many, many levels. I think that within the space program that's extremely advanced, that's all around us, the Galactic Federation, so forth, they use portaling to move around not only our solar system but also the galaxy and other galaxies. So they want to control that and then pull in their negative buddies, because there's basically a system that's surrounding the Earth that's keeping that from coming in and helping us to raise our vibration, raise our consciousness. And by raising our consciousness, we're being exposed to all this information like we're talking about right now, and people are waking to it, waking to the control systems that are out there to keep us suppressed, because each one of us are extremely powerful beings in and of ourselves. And once we realize that and we start to work together, we overcome their systems instantly. And they know that. That's why they want to control us. That's why they're controlling the narrative. That's why they're putting things in our body that will basically allow a negative type of AI to come in and inhabit us and take us over. So there's a lot of that going on. So CERN is part of that. So there's a bigger picture they were planning. CERN got shut down one time. I believe it's in control of the white hats. It's not going to be utilized for a negative portaling system, like spinning the atoms and blowing open a hole in our universe right here and creating a open portal for the negative entities. It's not going to happen.
So what do you think the white hats are using CERN now? What are they doing with it now? I mean, how could it be used for good?
Maybe that portaling system could be, because portaling systems I know exist out in the space program. We move our craft, through portals into different, and like if we wanted to go to Mars, we basically portal there, and there's portaling systems that are here already active to a certain extent that move us, kind of like Star Trek movies where you see they get on the like they beam people up and around, down to Earth and up and around. So there's a beaming portaling type of process that already happens on a certain level. They want to take it to a different level. So maybe the white hats will take that. Maybe they just took it over, so it can't be utilized for that until the overall takeover, the takedown of the dark ones basically happens. So so we've talked about 1, 2, and 3 tier, but there's also a tier above the first tier, and that is the Draco reptilians. So the Draco reptilians, came to Earth back during the Atlantean times and basically took over, and that's what they almost destroyed the Earth back then. They're basically losing their shot of controlling the Earth. It's they're in their last days. At some point within the near future, they're basically taken completely down, and they won't exist in our environment again.
Is that because they're very low frequency beings? If we're raising our frequency, is it because it would be much more difficult for them to survive?
Well, that's one aspect, but they can exist on higher frequencies as well, but they control. It's easier for them to control us at this level, the third dimensional realm. Fourth dimensional realm, it gets a little harder for them. Fifth dimensional, even harder. There's less of them at those higher frequencies, but still they exist, I believe, way up into higher frequencies. I've heard as high as 11. I know of I have an existence on Sirius B where my frequency level is at 7D. So that 7D information comes through to me sometimes, and I connect with it, and information is passed back and forth, almost like an avatar body here on Earth. So with this, a lot of people, I believe, have come into Earth from different planetary sources, and they're awakening to their avatar, existent form, that's basically inputting information into the avatar body here on Earth, or they're basically awakening to the existence they came here, and as advanced souls, and are here to help with this consciousness raise to a higher dimension. So I think there's tremendous amount of young ones that are coming in right now that are super high level consciousness from 6 and 7D to help in this transition. And that's one of the reasons why they want to really get hardcore on, putting things into our body, because they want to shut down those wise ones that are coming in to help us make the ascension. Because once, like we're talking about, once we make the ascension, it's almost impossible for them to control us at that point, because things happen at a faster rate. We start to learn to control our consciousness. We don't get stuck in their lower vibrational realms, the anger, the fear, and so forth. As we move our consciousness higher into the love frequencies and so forth, then those frequencies are something they don't like that. It's the most powerful force in the universe. They don't exist on those levels. So if the higher you go, and that's like 12, 15 dimension type stuff. Once you're in that level of consciousness, you're connecting to it. You don't necessarily have to be there, but you're connecting to it. Then your frequency can't be manipulated. And I've noticed that myself. Once I stay in those higher frequencies, it's really, really hard for them to come in and manipulate me. They still try, but it's not effective. And that's one of the things I would recommend to people. And I've tried to recommend it every time we do a show is stay in that love vibration, because those higher levels of frequency does not allow them. And even if you get that thing in your body that we're talking about, don't get any more, please. Because every time you get one of those, it lowers your frequency and lowers your ability to resist anything to come in and take you over, or basically take you out of existence here. So I think that, as we move forward, there'll be modalities, healing modalities that are coming through, that are already starting to come through, that will help people that have been tricked into that. But a lot of people, I think in August is when I think we see a lot of people start to transition from that. And that's going to be a big wake up call for people.
Absolutely. Well, Michael Jaco, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
No, just like, I try and relate every time, stay in that love frequency vibration. If you stay there, they can't have control of us. And if they can't have control of us, their frequency systems disintegrate and fall away. So it's just very simple in talking about it, but actually doing it. Be loving towards someone that's trying to, take you out. It's kind of tough for a lot of people, but it is extremely effective.
Absolutely. And happy 4th of July to you all. And I'll see you again in 2 weeks, Michael. Thank you so much. And
Thank
God
you,
bless
Nicholas.
you.
God bless
Bye-bye.
you.